So now we decide who's going to be a challenger for second place in the NCAA championships because Penn State is the overwhelming favorite for right reason. And we're going through 165 through the heavyweight. Aaron Brooks, surprisingly a number 3 seed. But what in the world was the committee thinking when they put defending national champion Max Dean as the number 9 seed at 197?
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thanks so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. My name is Zach Sako, your host as always, and that is Jeff Byers, the voice of Penn State Wrestling. A very special guest joining me for now, part 2 of this 2-part preview for the 2023 NCAA Wrestling Championships. Jeff, thanks again for doing this 2-part extravaganza here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Looking forward to what should be a really fun weekend in Tulsa.
So we got through 4 wrestlers for Penn State that when we did our 125 through 157 preview, now we get to 165 to heavyweight, and then we will discuss the teams and who will at least challenge for second place. Of course, Iowa comes to mind, but there's a couple other teams, particularly one out of the ACC that I think could make a lot of noise when it comes to the team standings. But at 165, we'll start and work our way up as we did the first time around and the way we did it with the Big Ten Championship preview. And so at 165, Alex Facundo slots in as, again, surprisingly, the 13 seed. Now, he did, in some rankings, move up into the top 5. When he was on a winning streak. But Alex Facundo, at least for I know because he's wrestling extremely tough talent, that he's not going to overwhelmingly dominate these opponents. But it did feel like some of these matches were just a little too close, and that he was going to kind of balance out, the pendulum swings one way and then it comes back ultimately into the middle. So the 13 seed, I think is a little underrated, but I think he is closer to that top 10 boundary, unless you think otherwise, that he should be in the top 5 consideration here.
No, I think that's right. Talent wise, again, for Alex, it was, he just wasn't able to get his offense generated at the Big Ten tournament. And I think, it's been something he's been working on. And I thought going into the tournament that he would be able to secure takedowns against some of the top competition. He just wasn't able to do it in that tournament. But, Penn State has, again, a tremendous history here, especially in the last 5 or 6 years, of making those adjustments from Big Tens to nationals. And I'm really curious and excited to see what Alex can do here at the national tournament. He has a really tough matchup, but I think it is a winnable one against Ramirez from Cornell in the second round, the 4 seed. And I was really impressed. Ramirez beat Quincy Monday, who was a finalist before in the finals at the EIWA, and was really just impressed with his performance there. It was just a gutsy effort. So, Facundo is, to me, he is as talented as anybody in the weight class. It's just, again, he's a redshirt freshman. It's just a matter of learning, how to score the points when you need them against those top guys. And I think for the most part, he's done a good job of that this year. I think, the big question for me is how quickly and is he able to shake off what was a subpar Big Ten tournament and just get back to it and wrestle the way he did much of the season. I think if his confidence isn't waning after the Big Ten tournament, that he is a really dangerous wrestler in this field. I think he is as talented as anybody there, and I think it's just a matter of believing and making it happen, like going out and creating the takedown opportunity. And, if he can get the initial takedown in these bouts, I think, 90-95% of the time he's going to come out with the win, because he's just really tough to score against.
And his route is going to be tough, as you mentioned, Ramirez. And we could have got at least a preview of that had Cornell faced Penn State back in the duels earlier in the season. They ultimately faced Iowa State, and that was one of the more exciting dual meets that Penn State wrestled in all season long, where they didn't utterly dominate. I would say that Iowa, and go figure, Iowa and Iowa State were Penn State's toughest dual meets. So what I'm getting at is that we could have seen that Facundo Ramirez matchup a little earlier had Cornell won and ultimately faced Penn State, but it turned out to be the Cyclones here. This 165 bracket is interesting because you have David Carr, who is a member of that Cyclones team, who moved up, was a defending 157 champ. Now he's up at 165 and hasn't missed a beat. He's undefeated. But here's what I find interesting is at the 9 seed, another defending national championship, who became ultimately the face of saving the Stanford wrestling program. And that is Shane Griffith, who I think that in itself is a pseudo championship if and when Carr and Griffith meet around, I guess that would be the quarterfinals.
Yeah, this weight class is just fascinating. I mean, you have the 3 champs there in Carr and O'Toole from Missouri, who's the 2 seed. Yeah. And then Griffith, and then you have another finalist in the 5 seed, Quincy Monday. And then, Patrick Kennedy of Iowa is, I think, 6 seed. And I mean, this weight class is really deep and really talented. You could probably argue, and I think I probably would agree that this is the most talented field of any weight class in the tournament this year, just based on past accomplishments. And then also, you have a bunch of guys like Alex Facundo that are rising stars that are certainly going to make an impact in future years, and obviously are hoping to make an impact this weekend as well. But whoever ends up winning this weight class, and David Carr is certainly rightfully the favorite, but whoever wins it, you will earn it. There's no doubt about it. This is not a weight class where anything's going to be handed to you this season.
Yeah, so Alex Facundo definitely has a tough path out of all the people that he's named, but he is going to have to go through guys. He's going to have to find an upset, and then it's going to get even tougher from there. So as the 13th seed, outside looking in, but he's made it here, so anything can happen when it's over there in Tulsa. I won't let what's on paper dictate everything there. At 174, Carter Starocci. This is the second of 2 top overall seeds for Penn State. Roman Bravo Young was the first at 133, and then 174. How can it not be Carter Starocci, who's just been absolutely dominant? He's 19-0. He's undefeated on the season, and Carter Starocci's chasing something that is probably never going to be done again, at least, and I hope not because of the circumstances. A 5-time national champion. Jeff, we'll start there just with that idea of Carter Starocci chasing something that is just, it's going to be untouchable once things completely get back to normal, as college just isn't going to have that additional eligibility very soon. It's going to go away in the next year here.
Yeah, and you can argue, and I think it was the wrong thing that the NCAA did, but they did it. Mm-hmm. And it would be for Carter and for the Penn State program a pretty neat footnote if he is able to accomplish it. And I do think I know Mikey Labriola is the 2 seed, and Labriola is a really good wrestler, and Carter obviously did a great job in the Big Ten championship match, and Labriola is certainly capable of getting there. But Mekhi Lewis is the guy that I'm expecting. I just think Lewis, and I know he lost to Labriola earlier this year. I just think Lewis is, to me, the guy to watch. I do think that's going to be potentially a great semifinal matchup between those two. But Lewis, to me, is the one that is most likely to give Starocci issues. Starocci was not able to score a takedown against him in the NWCA All-Star meet, but the thing with Carter is he just is one of these guys that is able to will himself to victory. And I thought the 3rd period ride that he had against Lewis in that All-Star meet was really impressive, because it just kind of reaffirmed that no matter what you do. You can keep Carter off of your legs and prevent a takedown, and you're still going to lose 2-0 because he just has that will, and he's so good in all three positions. I mean, I just have not seen anybody be able to ride him. And obviously he has become really, really effective on top. And with the exception of Mekhi Lewis, has been able to get his offense going against anybody else he's faced this season. And again, it's wrestling, it's sports. I would never say never, and I'm not going to sit here and guarantee anything, but you certainly like Carter Starocci's chances going into this tournament. He's another one that just when the lights are brightest, that's when he comes on his strongest. And I just know you can see the twinkle in his eye. You can hear it in his voice right now. He is one of those guys that truly gets excited about this time of the season. I mean, I know Cale Sanderson talks all the time, and the coaches do, about trying to keep even keeled. And I'm not saying Carter's not even keeled in terms of his approach every day. He does try to get better every day, and he works on specific things, but he is a guy that just gets a little extra amped up at this time of the year. And I think he probably looks forward to this tournament as much as anybody. It's just where he has obviously come into his own over the last couple of seasons. And again, going in, I certainly expect that he's going to find his way to the top again.
And for Carter Starocci, he's beaten a lot of the guys that he's going to hypothetically face. I think that Mekhi Lewis matchup, I mean, again, that's somebody that he beat last year in the championships to get that gold. So is there anybody on that top side of the bracket that he could hypothetically face? Again, there's Edmund Ruth out of Illinois. There's Bailey O'Reilly out of Minnesota. Again, just people that, he's controlled the Big Ten. He's dominated the Big Ten now for 3 seasons. So is there anybody that can at least give him fits in this 174 bracket before a Lewis or before a Labriola?
Yeah, I think Chris Foca, the 4 seed from Cornell, is an interesting matchup. I don't think he's quite on Carter's level just yet, but I think he's only lost once all season, and and he hasn't wrestled Carter this year either. So, I think he could give him some problems. I'd be very surprised if he's able to win that bout or to keep it even within a couple over 3 periods. Carter is really good at being able to figure things out in the first period and make adjustments in bouts to what he needs to do to create scoring opportunities. And, there were some things that he worked on down the stretch that the coaches wanted him to work on where, maybe he wasn't going out and scoring bonus points to the degree that we're used to seeing him, but they were working on some specific things with him that they wanted him to really be able to have in his reservoir when the national tournament rolls around. And I just think Carter is at the top of his game right now. His confidence obviously is never lacking, but I'm just really impressed with where Carter is right now, both with his wrestling and just with his attitude. Again, I never say never, but boy, he's going to be awfully difficult to beat.
From 174, we'll move to 184, where Aaron Brooks is as the number 3 seed, surprisingly enough. Jeff, you and I will talk about that in just a moment. But first, a word from one of our sponsors of today's show, and that is a Built Bar. Are you looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and calories? Then you've got to try a Built Bar. I know my goal is to still eat a little healthier this year. And if you're like me, where you want to eat healthier, but you don't want to compromise taste, then man, I've got just the thing for you. You got to try a Built Bar. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious. You're not going to think they're good for you. What makes Built Bars so good, you might ask? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That is right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievably tasty flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. What's even better for you is that they are healthy, only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. Now you don't got to wait around to get yourself a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. And if you're close to a Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank me later. And thanks so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. Grab your bracket and go listen to Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown with national analysis and the insights from our local experts at Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown has everything you need to make the most informed decisions on your bracket. Find the episode on Locked On College Basketball wherever you get your podcasts on YouTube. And thanks for tuning in. This is a live edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. We appreciate the playback when you listen to this in the audio or whenever you're watching it back on YouTube. If you are with us live, please feel free to drop a question for Jeff or myself in the comments, or just any predictions you have for the Penn State Nittany Lions, because at 184, Aaron Brooks is now somehow an underdog in this class. Now, there's a lot of good wrestlers, and personally, this one is one of the ones that I'm more excited about, Jeff, just because, I have to, because of my background in broadcasting in a short period of time. The Hidley brothers of Hayden and Trent over at NC State, I was hoping that we would get, and just because this has been an ongoing rivalry all the way back to freestyles in high school before they even got to college, Aaron Brooks versus Trent Hidley, that one went down to the wire a year ago. It wasn't, unfortunately, a championship. This time, if they hypothetically meet again, it won't be in the championship because Hidley's the 2 and Aaron Brooks is the 3 seed. So how do we get here in the fact that Brooks isn't the 1 seed? And I get Hidley's only lost 1 match. I totally get that, but Brooks, to move him to number 3, what is the committee thinking here?
Yeah, the formula that they use and what hurt Aaron is he just didn't have enough matches to get the RPI ranking, and that's 10% of what they take into account. I don't know for sure because I haven't sat down and gone through the entire math, but I have to believe that 10% having basically a 0 there for Aaron Brooks was what the difference was between a 1 seed and a 3 seed for him. And, he just didn't have enough matches to qualify for the RPI. So the fact of the matter is, in this particular case, you could seed Aaron Brooks 33, and if he wrestles like he did at the Big Ten tournament, it's not going to matter. And no disrespect, Trent Hidley is a tremendous wrestler. Parker Kikaisen is very good as the 1 seed. I'm just telling you, if Aaron Brooks wrestles the way he did at the Big Ten tournament, he's going to win the national title. There's just that is next level good. It was as good as we've seen him wrestle, and that's saying something because obviously he's got a couple of national titles under his belt already. But he just is on point right now. Just so relaxed with everything he does, with his setups, and he makes it look ridiculously easy, and it certainly isn't. And again, I'm certainly not guaranteeing. This is a great weight class as well, and a lot of really good kids. I just think Aaron Brooks, if he is locked in, and I expect him to be the way he was at the Big Ten tournament, again, these guys are not going to be able to beat him. He's just a different level when he's on. Now, again, if he's off a little bit, Hidley, Kikaisen, and probably a few others. Marcus Coleman obviously beat him earlier this year.
Beat him, yeah.
I don't think Aaron Brooks is unbeatable. But if again, he is dialed in the way it looked like he was at the Big Ten tournament, he's going to become a 3-time champion here.
Well, and it seemed like Brooks and Hidley were the faces of 184, and then Kikaisen just kind of, I don't want to say comes out of nowhere for Northern Iowa, but Aaron Brooks and Miles Amin was that rivalry, and partially Trent Hidley. Amin is gone, and now you have Kikaisen come in. So is this a crash course here between Kikaisen and Aaron Brooks for a 1 versus 3 seed in the championship, or could we see a Marcus Coleman, who's a very underrated 5 seed that does he have the opportunity to upset Kikaisen at the top there and then face a Brooks after we're going to see Brooks and Hidley?
I think he does. Munoz is very good too from Oregon State, the 4 seed. So I think there are a bunch of guys there that are capable of getting to the finals. And I do think that, from the quarterfinals in, again, there's going to be some really good wrestling and really intriguing matchups. But at the end of the day, to be honest with you, I think who wins that Brooks Hidley bout, to me, is likely to be the national champion. I mean, I do, in my mind, going into this tournament with the way they're wrestling right now, I think Brooks is the best wrestler in the country at this weight. I think Hidley is the second best. And then I think it's, close between, Kakai's and then, again, Munoz. I haven't seen a lot of, but I know he's obviously very good. Marcus Coleman obviously got the win over Brooks at the National Collegiate Duels down in New Orleans. So, he's capable of putting together a really good match. But, I do think we're going to see Brooks and Hidley in the semis. And I think Aaron Brooks is wrestling, even by his standards, exceptionally well right now.
Yeah, and that's this stretch that he's had, at least as of very late, because I think he shook off some of the demons earlier in the season. I mean, that when you have that loss, we saw that reset point for him when he lost to Amin in the Big Ten championships a year ago, and then this time around when he ultimately lost to his counterpart from Iowa State. So in Marcus Coleman, slipping my mind.
Well, and the thing with Aaron, we talk all the time, Zach, in wrestling especially, but in sports in general, that sometimes you learn more from a loss than a win. And I will say, I don't know that there's anybody that has done a better job of learning from their losses. And in the case of Brooks losing to Coleman this year, it really forced Aaron to I think do some pretty deep soul searching on what it was that he needed to do, lifestyle wise and just kind of focus wise to get back to where he wants to be in the sport and take advantage of the talents that he has. And I just think he's done a fantastic job of that, of just making some adjustments that have allowed him to get back to being, again, in my mind, better than ever going into the NCAA tournament.
It is a Locked On Nittany Lions. We got 197 in heavyweight, and just a brief look at the team standings to totally bring together these part one and part two with Jeff Ironhead Byers. First, another word from our sponsor of today's show, and that is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now's the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. There's bonus bets back if your first bet does not win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, super easy to use. Then you can bet on all your favorite NBA bets, from the point spread to the money line to totals, and player props like points, rebounds, assists, and so many other exclusive bets like the 2x3, 2 3-pointers scored in the first 3 minutes. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. So don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Final segment of Locked On Nittany Lions, part 2 of the 2023 Wrestling Championships preview, with the 9 Penn State Nittany Lions going to Tulsa, Oklahoma, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And hopefully we can see 9 Nittany Lions make the podium and become All-Americans at 197. Speaking of the number 9, that is where Max Dean is seated, who is a defending national champion. And again, somebody that lost a couple early matches and lost the championship in the Big Ten bracket, but somehow falls. I would understand maybe a 3rd or a 4th seed here, Jeff, but he's the number 9 seed. So what in the world is the committee thinking?
Yeah, the issue there was that they, I think, waited. I don't think. Obviously, when you look at the seed, they waited heavily. The loss to All Red, and I think in their mind they couldn't justify putting Dean ahead of All Red as a result of that championship bout. And Allred, while he's a very good wrestler, does have 5 losses. So, they ended up seeding him 8 and moving Max Dean all the way down to 9. I think it's obviously a very tough seed for Max Dean, but I will say that is not a matchup that I think, if it occurs, and he'll have some work to do to get there, but that's not a matchup that Nino Bonacorsi is looking forward to in the
Right.
quarterfinals. I wouldn't think. The way it sets up now, it's just again a really fascinating path, and we'll see whether or not Max is up to the task, but he'll have a chance to avenge the loss to Allred in the second round if they both win their
Yeah.
first round bouts. Then he gets the number 1 seed. If he beats Allred, and if these are obviously big ifs, but if he's able to beat Bonacorsi, then he likely is going to face one of the other 2 wrestlers that beat him earlier in the season.
Yep.
Because Ethan Laird, the 4 seed for Ryder, and Michael Beard, the 5 seed and former teammate of Max Dean's now at Lehigh, are the 2 that beat him in that same weekend. So, if it does end up being Dean and Beard in the semifinals, that is one that'll get the fans riled up, and certainly will renew in earnest the Penn State Lehigh rivalry. But listen, it is a really difficult road here for Max Dean to try to get back to the finals, and really it's going to be a tough path for him to get on the podium once again. So I think for Max, he's obviously been here. He knows what he's doing. I think it's just a matter, again, of shaking off the loss to Allred, believing in himself, and trusting that when the lights are on and he needs to come up with the wins, that he'll be able to do so again this season the way he did last season. And 197 to me is the most wide open weight class.
Absolutely.
With the biggest number of contenders here. I know 157, 165 are, probably similar, but I just think 197, there's probably 20 guys that I could see being All-Americans. And I really think there's probably at least 10 to 12 guys that it's like, well, yeah, if they get hot and they find a way to win the close ones, that they could find themselves atop the podium here on Saturday night. I just think this weight class is going to be a whole lot of fun to watch, and we'll see what Max Dean can do. He's going to be a very tough out for anybody, but he also has a very tough path, as I said, to get back to the finals or even to get on the podium again.
Just to put this into perspective for some people, 197 might be the most complete bracket, I would say, because a guy like Cam Caffey, who's beaten Max Dean, at least this was last year, and Dean got his revenge. Caffey's a 19 seed, and someone like, I know that Dean has dominated him, but Jacob Warner out of Iowa is a 14 seed. So just giving folks an idea of what 197 looks like, because 285, not as wide open. It's a kind of a 3-way race here. I'd say 4 because Cassiope drops down to the 4 spot here. But with Mason Parris kind of going into an extra gear here this season with Michigan, and Greg Kerkvliet just not be, it would used to be back and forth. And now it's, well, Parris has gotten the best of him multiple times in a row now consecutively. So at 285, can Greg Kerkvliet finally circle the wagons here, who is a 3 seed in this case, because Hendrickson out of Air Force took the 2 spot. And Mason Parris, of course, is the favorite as the number 1 seed. So, and then there's Tony Cassiope, who was that 3-headed monster in the Big Ten, now is the 4th seed with some other guys. And let's not forget about Colton Schultz, who made it to the championship last year. And I think we can start with the fact that Gable Steveson is not in this bracket. And neither is his ghost or any relatives. So for once, for the first time in quite some time, 285 is going to have somebody else winning the national title.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Mason Parris and his performance in the Big Ten tournament. I really thought going into that one that Kerkvliet was going to come back and avenge his regular season loss. And I just thought Mason wrestled an exceptionally good bout. I think Kerkvliet is certainly capable of beating him, but that is going to be a really tough assignment. I will say, of all of the seeds, I'm actually the one that is the most surprising to me is Kerkvliet being behind Hendrickson. It's also the one that's the least impactful, because whether Kerkvliet was 2 and Hendrickson was 3 or vice versa, they're going to meet in the semifinals. But I don't understand Kerkvliet being behind Hendrickson when you look at the strength of schedule and the quality wins and their only losses. I mean, I get Kerkvliet lost to him twice, but it's only because he wrestled him twice. But their only losses for either wrestler was to Mason Parris, and that one, to be honest with you, is a bigger head scratcher for me than either Max Dean or Aaron Brooks. But again, it's also, as I said, the least impactful at the end of the day. I think they're both getting to the semifinals because I think they're a good bit above the rest of the field on that half of the bracket. And Cassiope's a terrific wrestler, but I just don't think he's going to beat Mason Parris or Greg. Well, I don't think I'll have a chance to wrestle Kerkvliet in this tournament. But so in my mind going in, I'm expecting to be Kerkvliet and Parris again. And again, I think it's going to be a really close match, and Kerkvliet's got to figure out a way to get a takedown of his own and to see if he can get his top game going. Mason Parris, has certainly elevated his game from a year ago and is rightfully listed as the guy to beat here. I think Greg Kerkvliet is the most likely candidate to knock Parris off at the national tournament, but it is obviously a tall order.
Yeah, and that'll be in the championship if and when it's going to happen. I think for me personally, I like keeping an eye on Colton Schultz against Mason Parris, just because Schultz was that unexpected guy a year ago. I thought just because of the challenge, the mountain of a man that Gable Steveson is, that Schultz was able to hold his own for as long as he did against that just tells me everything I need to know.
Yeah, Schultz got off to a rough start this season, and I don't know if it was just could have been a number of things. I'm not sure what was going on there, but yeah, he is. Talent wise, he's as good as there is, and if he is able to get past Cassiope, that is an intriguing matchup with him and Parris in the semifinals, because Schultz is a gamer too, and we've seen him perform very well at the national tournament. So. That's a good call on Schultz being a potential dark horse here at heavyweight as a 5 seed going into the weekend.
Yeah, and I hate the way that these are seeded, because I would love to see Kerkvliet wrestle Cassiope and Schultz on his way to the championship, but you can't get everything you ask for. Just I do think it is one of the easier paths to a gold medal for someone like Kerkvliet in this case, with just Mason Parris as the favorite standing in the way. But again, I really do think Schultz is at the top of that bracket, the top half anyway. It's either one of them for me personally to face Kerkvliet in the championship round. So with that being said, we've gone through now. We've completed both parts 1 and 2, and we're at the final leg of this, Jeff, and that is the team standings, where Penn State, because they have 9 wrestlers, because they have 9 guys who could all be All-America selections, you have, let's see here, between Roman Bravo Young, Levi Haynes, Carter Starocci, Aaron Brooks, Max Dean, and Greg Kerkvliet, who all are likely to compete for a title, that they are just going to take the team title once again and add to the hardware that is over in Rec Hall. And you're just going to have to keep building case after case after case. So who's going to be number 2? I think Iowa is an obvious choice, but I like NC State. I really wish Penn State could schedule an out of conference dual meet with them, because I would have loved to have seen especially because NC State recruits Pennsylvania very well. So those kids that aren't going to Penn State, they become a pipeline down south to the Wolfpack, whether that's Hayden and Trent Hidley, Ed Scott, for example, who's again another talented wrestler. And they got tons of young guys that are ready, that are going to be coming through very quickly, that you're going to hear a lot about. So is it safe to say that NC State and what other schools do you have in mind to compete in that top 5 for the standings?
Yeah, going into the weekend, I think Penn State is, a prohibitive favorite. And, to me, only Iowa and Missouri,
Okay.
and it would take a combination of Penn State, stumbling in multiple weights and one of those teams having a near perfect tournament to be able to dethrone the Nittany Lions. But going in, to me, Penn State is a pretty clear-cut 1. Iowa's a pretty clear-cut 2. And Missouri is a pretty clear-cut 3. Although I wouldn't be shocked if Missouri puts together a tournament where they can surpass Iowa. But going in, I'm expecting it to be Penn State, Iowa, Missouri. And then I think that, if that proves to be true, I think the fascinating race then is kind of probably 4 through 7 or 8. Because I think there's a lot of teams that are capable of getting in that mix. Nebraska, certainly based on its Big Ten performance, is a team that you have to watch at the national tournament. I think both NC State and Virginia Tech out of the ACC, I think both of those teams have the potential for a lot of points here at the NCAA tournament. Cornell put together a terrific EIWA performance, 6 champs, and they have 7 qualifiers, and I think all 7 of their guys are capable of scoring significant points, and so I think Cornell could end up in the mix there in that race for number 4 as well. And I think Oklahoma State, if it gets hot, they'll be home basically in Tulsa, and they qualified all 10 of their wrestlers. They're kind of due for having a good NCAA tournament, even though they finished 3rd at the Big 12 tournament. Iowa State's another team that could be, both Oklahoma State and Iowa State out of the Big 12 could factor in there. I just think, I don't know how many I just listed there, but I think any of those teams that I just talked about could finish 4. And again, if either Missouri or Iowa stumble a bit, could even crack into the top 3. But going in, again, I'm expecting to be Penn State, Iowa, Missouri, and then a wild battle in that for 4 or 5, and probably the rest of the top 10 there. I think there's a lot of teams that could be in the mix. Northwestern's another one. Both Michigan and Ohio State from the Big Ten could certainly be top 10 teams, and probably top 6 or 7 teams if they get hot. Northwestern has some guys that like Yaya Thomas and Frankie Talshahar. If they can get up on the podium and a 4 or 5 spot, those are guys that could help Northwestern to a top 10 finish at the very least, and maybe even a top 7 or 6 finish. So I think it's going to be this tournament. I probably say this every year, but I just think this is as fun of a tournament going in as we've had in a while in terms of intrigue and potential matchups and teams and individuals that could make runs, and you're just wanting to see how it all plays out. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun for wrestling fans over the 3 days of wrestling in Tulsa.
Thanks again for making a Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. Make sure you check out Locked On College Basketball. The madness is here in March. Locked On College Basketball. Everything you need to know about college basketball in one place. Plus, you get to hear from big-name experts, insiders, players, and coaches. That is Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. He is Jeff Ironhead Byers, the voice of Penn State Wrestling, the one and only, does this solo. You are going to be broadcasting Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this upcoming week here. That is Thursday, March 16th, concluding in the evening on Saturday, March 18th, out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You can listen to everything on gopsusports.com. You can stream it. Also listen on the local radio stations in the State College Center County area. Jeff, I wish you nothing but safe travels, of course, to and from, and an exciting time, because as you described it to me before we hopped on, of course, the show, that this is like a kid on Christmas for you. This is this time of year.
It absolutely is. I always get a little extra excited this time of the year, and just can hardly wait to see how everything unfolds. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah, Jeff, thanks so much for the time.
Thank you.